We come now to chapter 45 of the book of Genesis, and that particular moment when the dramatic irony ends. If you remember back to when you studied English, you'll remember that dramatic irony is an expression that describes a situation in literature where the reader is aware of something that the character in the story is not. So the typical trope where in the horror movie, the person goes into the bedroom where the bad guy's hiding behind the door. We know that, but the person going into the room doesn't know that. Well, this is what's been going on in this ongoing dance between Joseph and his brothers. But as we come to chapter 45, we come to that place where Joseph just can't take it anymore. He is weeping. He is wailing. His tears, his crying is so loud that his neighbors can hear him. This is not a gentle sniffle. This is a severe outpouring, and understandably so. As you may recall, it's part of my passion when teaching from the Bible is trying to encourage people to really enter into the pathos of the story. That we, because we're used to studying the Bible like something abstract, we forget that these are real flesh and blood people. And here's Joseph, a real guy, not some super spiritual being that's different from you and I, who has been through a great deal of hardship. It kind of reminds me, this breakdown of something that happened to me when I was a very young boy in elementary school. Like a lot of kids, the kids in my neighborhood, and I use the word neighborhood loosely because I lived out in the country on a 50-acre plot of land that had, 3 or 4 or 5 houses on it, most of whom had kids. And it was not at all unusual for us to gather at the same spot for kickball games or hide and seek. One of the families had a jungle gym that served as our base, and right beside the jungle gym was a tree that was quite good for climbing. By good for climbing, what I mean is that it had some branches low enough that they were easy to get a hold of from the ground, and then lots of branches all the way up. On this particular day, there was no one gathered at this gathering spot. There was just me, and with nothing else to do, I determined to go ahead and climb this tree, and things were going very well, and I was feeling very confident, and I just determined that maybe it was time for me to see if I could surpass my personal best, if I could get higher than I'd ever been on that tree. So I continued to climb, and the branches and the limbs began to grow thinner and thinner, but I continued to climb, and every now and again I had the courage to look down to the ground, and it was way down there, and I got to the place where I had broken my own personal best record and was quite pleased with myself when all of a sudden I felt a sudden, instantaneous drop in temperature of probably 5 degrees. The air became suddenly dark. I could feel a rapid shift in the barometric pressure. I wouldn't have known how to describe it, but I could feel it. All of a sudden, the wind began to blow. A storm had come up instantly with fierce winds and raindrops. And there I am in the top of this tree that's just swaying back and forth in the wind, and I am terrified. And I'm realized that my only hope, that my best strategy is to climb down this tree as safely and as quickly as I could. And I commenced to climbing down the tree. I didn't slime down it. I climbed down the tree step by step, keeping 2 hands on the limb above me and stepping down a step and down and down and down. and eventually got down to that last limb closest to the ground and leapt from there onto the ground, I'd made it. But what really shocked my little 7 or 8 year old mind is that it was when I got to the ground that I started crying. That I started really feeling the terror that no longer applied. Looking back on that time as an adult, I think I realized that what had happened was the reality of the danger had created in my little tiny kid body a surge of adrenaline, that my whole focus got zeroed in on getting to the ground, and I didn't have the sort of mental bandwidth to commit anything to fear or dread or anything like that until I was safely on the ground, and then it just sort of swept over me. Well, that's what I'm imagining, not just one time being stuck up in a tree, but this is a lifetime for Joseph. And it's not just the hardships, it's the roller coaster of the ride, the ups and the downs, the meetings that he's had with these brothers when he wasn't sure what to do, the reunion with Benjamin, all of these things, intense, emotional events. And he breaks down. And he cries. And he admits to his brothers who he is. Oh, man. Now I want you to put yourself in the shoes of those brothers. Talk about emotional whiplash. On the one hand, if you have, as we've talked about in previous chapters, if you have matured, if you've been sanctified and you've come to realize what a terrible thing that you've done, and if you've lost your bitterness toward your brother, wouldn't you have such a deep and profound sense of relief that he's not dead or almost dead, working in some field under the harsh Egyptian sun? Aren't you going to be like, oh, this is so great, he's okay, he's not just okay, he's like the second most powerful man in the world. But then you remember it's no thanks to you. You remember that all the things that you're fearful that he might have gone through, he could have gone through because of you. Well, Joseph, in his emotional tsunami, had the sense and the grace to speak words of grace into the lives of his brothers, realizing that they may very well be struck with dread. He tells them, listen, I'm your brother Joseph, whom you sold to Egypt, and now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He's made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt. I'm not coming for you. I'm not gunning for you. I want you to know that I see God's hand in this. And I want you to put away your shame and your guilt. I don't want you to be distressed or angry with yourselves. God sent me here. God did this, and God did this for God's reasons. And one of the things that we've already seen is he's allowed me to rescue you, to rescue our extended family, to maintain a remnant, and to rescue these Egyptians. There's a type here, a picture of the promise of the good news that was given first to Abraham, that through him all the nations of the world would be blessed. Do you see the Egyptians are being blessed? You know who did see this? The great French mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal. I'm working on a project. I don't know if I've mentioned it in these Genesis chapters, but I'm working on a project trying to take Pensées by Pascal and unpack it and present it to teenagers. And so I've been knee deep in Pascal and delighting in it, enjoying it immensely. And one of the things that I came across just recently was a thought. By the way, you may not know what Pensées is. It's a collection of almost random snippets of thought from Pascal, sort of a stack of notes from which he intended at some point to write a book, but it never got done, and so the notes just got printed as is. Well, one of those notes touches on what we're talking about. This is what Pascal had to say. He said, Jesus Christ, typified by Joseph, the beloved of his father, sent by his father to see his brethren, innocent, sold by his brethren for 20 pieces of silver, and thereby becoming their Lord, their Savior, the Savior of strangers, and the Savior of the world, which had not been but for their plot to destroy him, their sale and their rejection of him. In prison, Joseph, innocent, between two criminals. Jesus Christ, on the cross, between two thieves. Joseph foretells freedom to the one and death to the other from the same omens. Jesus Christ saves the elect and condemns the outcast for the same sins. Joseph foretells only. Jesus Christ acts. Joseph asks him who will be saved to remember him when he comes into his glory. And he whom Jesus saves asks that he will remember him when he comes to his kingdom. Isn't that something? Isn't that amazing? And here is that time when the glory of the Lord is revealed. This is in a manner of speaking like the Mount of Transfiguration, where the identity of Joseph and the glory of Joseph is shining through, and his brothers are beholding it. This is the fulfillment of the dream that Joseph had. But he doesn't respond by seeking vengeance. He doesn't say, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And here I am in this position of power, and because I'm in this position of power, you guys are really in for it, because I've got, legions at my command. In fact, they're waiting outside the door. I've got professional, well-trained torturers who are sharpening their implements, getting ready for you right now. I'm in a position where I can use my power and my wealth and my political standing to bring down justice on you. He could have said all of that, and he wouldn't have been wrong to do so. The same thing is true of Jesus. Jesus, in fact, says that he could have called down legions of angels. But listen instead to what Joseph says. Come down to me. Do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, And you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you. For there are yet 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt, and of all that you've seen. Hurry and bring my father down here. Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck, and he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. After that, his brothers talked with him. Well, that's the plan. The plan is not revenge. The plan is further rescue. This is Joseph, in a manner of speaking, crying out, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And in fact, if anyone represents the father in this story, it's Pharaoh. And how does Pharaoh respond to this news? He has the exact same posture that Joseph has because of his love for Joseph. Joseph, I'm so grateful to you. These are your people. Then listen, they need to come down here. I'm going to give them the best land. I'm going to make sure that all their needs are met. I'm going to take care of them. Get it done. Send some wagons. I don't want their old people to struggle to get here, or their children to get sore feet. Send some wagons, send some food, just bring them down here. Deliver them. Swing low the sweet chariots to bring your family, your brothers, and their descendants, to bring them here into my kingdom, the kingdom that I have made you a ruler over. Such a beautiful chapter, such a glorious celebration, such a great reveal, and again, such tenderness and grace and kindness and goodness from Joseph. Well, as the chapter moves forward, the brothers do as they're commanded to do, and they go back home, and they find their father there, and they tell their father what's happened. And he can scarcely believe it. Imagine. Remember when the brothers left, the skepticism felt by Jacob. I lost Joseph. You left Simeon. Now you want to bring Benjamin. And they come back and say, Benjamin's fine. Simeon's fine. Joseph is ruling over Egypt. And he wants all of us to come to him. Now, here's what the text doesn't say. This is interesting. Did Joseph or did the brothers tell Jacob what had actually happened? I mean, I'm guessing that had to have happened. I mean, how in the world... Given the fact that they told a lie that he had been killed, surely he must know that that was not true. But grace triumphs. Forgiveness wins the day. And now the people of God, the family of God, the descendants of Abraham through the line of Isaac into Jacob and his descendants, now they're brought into a good and fertile land, the land of Goshen, the very land where they will be safe and secure, despite their being enslaved, when a Pharaoh rises who remembers not Joseph, but Moses comes with the power of God and the judgment of God, and all sorts of calamities befall the nation of Egypt, but not Goshen. Goshen is a place where grace reigns.